Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught! Jelani Woods! Touchdown! INDY! A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton!
How do you like that, partner?
Renew now, drives in low, throws up a shot. It doesn't go. Tipped up and in by Anthony Leal. Indiana takes the lead.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Now, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, fine. Welcome aboard on this Friday edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Thank you so much for being with us. I hope you had a great week. Ready for the weekend. Lots to get to, lots to preview as in another great weekend of sports action coming up. Jim Coyle with you as always. Todd Luria join us, the Shot Father. We'll talk some IU basketball with him, as this week was Indiana Basketball Media Day, but also big visits coming this weekend for the Hoosiers. Braylon Mullins, Trent Sisley, and Eric Reibe coming in. Man, what a trio that is. Kentucky would like, or Indiana would like to land all of those. Kentucky looking at Braylon Mullins. They've got Malachi Moreno, who has already picked Kentucky and were AAU teammates with Braylon and Trent. He's trying to bring Braylon down to Kentucky. And Mullins has a visit to UK coming up later in, actually, it's about a month from now. In October, one of the visits he kept, and I believe that's for their Midnight Madness event down there. So he says there's a rumor that Jalen Harrelson is visiting too. He did just visit recently, and he very well might if he's available, since he's close by, because he can come back for an unofficial visit, which would not be at all shocking. We'll see. Indiana with a lot of visits on the football side as well, as they welcome some players in. But that's a list I think will grow exponentially once we start getting into those Big Ten games. They're going to bring their recruits into Maryland and Nebraska and Washington and Michigan and Purdue. How about, excuse me, Shohei Ohtani? I mean, this guy he's a freak, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but was going for the 50-50 club. Never happened. 50 home runs, 50 steals in a season. He eclipsed it in grand style. He goes 6 for 6, 10 RBIs, 3 home runs, and 2 stolen bases. Now, I'll grant you the third home run, I think I could have hit out. That was just a big old grapefruit that they had a non-pitcher in. Miami did at the time, so I don't even know why he was in there. So, but he's just I don't know how long you're going to have to wait before you say that he may be the greatest player in the history of the game. It's hard. I know that sounds like an overstatement, but he's just doing things that haven't been done. He's a pitcher, for gosh sakes. Are you kidding me? Man, crazy. Appreciate everybody jumping in on the Andy Moore Honda hotline, and welcome to the Hard Truth Studios, as we'll always be bringing you the hard truth and continue today, but make sure you're, wherever you are, stopping in one of your local stores and picking up some hard truth. And if they don't have it, ask for it. But some of their award-winning sweet mash rye, or sweet mash bourbons. You've got the hard road rye, toasted coconut rum. They've got all kinds of great products. Cinnamon vodka. they're all award-winning. They're all incredible. Made right in central Indiana in the heart of beautiful Brown County in Nashville. And that's another facility that just going there is amazing. Their distilling company. They have a nice restaurant. It's beautiful, the woods of Brown County. It's about that time of year, too. Stop in, on your way to a football game. Holy moly. We'll hear a little more from Curt Cignetti today. We'll hear from Charlotte's coach. We'll hear some more from IU basketball also. Last night on Inside Indiana Football with Curt Cignetti, Don Fisher, kind of funny. Curt Cignetti is a character. Let me tell you, he's got a sense of humor, and he does not shy away from attention. He brought up the question last night. He said, Don, did you know if we win Saturday, I'll be the first coach to win their first 4 games at Indiana? And Don just looked at him and said, yeah, I knew that. He goes, I was going to ask you about it. He goes, I've been here for a while. Just found that very funny. Just a fun night out at Hoosier Hanks East last night, home of the Inside Indiana Football with Don Fisher and Curt Cignetti. He's funny on his show, but yeah, Brian, you got to try that sweet mash bourbon. Oh yes, all of them make great old fashions. Their ryes as well, hard road rye. Woo, yes sir. I'm telling you, got to pick it up. And if you do, talking about the hard truth, take a picture of yourself with it. Send it to me. If we can get some people to start doing that, I'm gonna throw in for a drawing and do some good stuff for you guys. Cheryl Sizemore hitting the board as well. Been a crazy week, but she's dropping in, just being quiet. Happy Friday to you, Cheryl. Appreciate you. And Remax Realty, for those of you looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, make sure you reach out to Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Her 20 years of experience could be the difference in you getting the home you want or not. You don't want it to be an or not. Absolutely. Football game Saturday for the Hoosiers at home as they wrap up non-conference play, a noon game, which will be good. That's right. Hit that like button. We appreciate you. And make sure you hit the subscribe button as well, so you don't miss a thing as the content begins to heat up now, as there's action nonstop between football and basketball and women's basketball. How about the Fever? I think they ended up losing that game. I fell asleep, but Caitlin Clark, it doesn't matter. Her efforts are still just kicking, rocking. Of course, she's blown away the all-time assist for a season record in the WNBA. She also set a mark for 3-pointers made by a rookie, assists made by a rookie. She is one of only the 4th ever rookie to lead her team in scoring and assists, I believe. So very likely that she's going to be on the WNBA first team. She's not going to be MVP or anything. Aja Wilson is the best player in the league, but good for her. Yeah, Brian, CJ West. How about this? That's something else that came out last night that was announced by Curt Cignetti. CJ West was called for and ejected for targeting against UCLA. Well, the Big Ten has overturned that, and he will be playing this week. I've never heard of that happening. As a matter of fact, last night when he announced it, Jeff Kegg, the sports information director for IU football, was sitting right there next to me. And I said, Jeff, I said, have you ever heard of that happening? And he said, no. So I've never heard of that happening. You don't get the halfback that you lost wrongly. And then there's the aspect of the call that wasn't made that was clear targeting against Aiden Fisher. But I digress. The sheer fact that they changed it is a great sign. Had that been a serious, a tough game, a harder game for Indiana, then that could have been, more devastating. But I've never ever heard of it, of a targeting call being reversed. So good for Indiana. They get one of the players back, not both of them, and that's fine. But they've got to get better at calling this stuff. You've got instant replay, guys. It shouldn't take a weekend to correct a call. I mean, who's making the reversal? You've already got a group of people in the Big Ten booth now, which is in there in Chicago, that all of the replays go to. So is there yet a third group? You've got the officials on the field. Now you've got the group that with the replay officials. Well, who overturned it? Is there yet a third group? It took 3 different people or groups to get it right. Come on, man. I mean, it's great that you're working to get it right, but at that point, how much does it matter? I mean, you're getting back for a half of this game, but had that happened in the first half of that game, he would have been lost for the entire game last week. And what are they going to do? How are you going to make that right? You don't. So I'm not going to let them off the hook. They got to get this stuff right. I don't hate the call. I hate the result of the call. It's just stupid. It's just beyond me that you're going to kick somebody out of a game for an inadvertent penalty. Yet you can line up at the 20 and run and just run in a dead sprint for 20 yards and tear a guy's head off, and you might get unsportsmanlike, but you don't get booted. So, how's your week been, everybody? How's your weekend looking? What you got going? Don't forget about the college pick'ems. We'll get to all that. Todd Luria going to join us next. So we'll head in that direction, taking a break, because we'll get the Todd father on here. Hi, Madeline, Mason, and Marley. Thank you very much. Met them last night. Appreciate all 3 of you guys, man. What a great trio. Met out at Hoosier Hanks last night, and we got a picture together. Thank you very much. Appreciate you guys. Awesome to meet all of you. The M&M Club. I've thought about that later, guys. You're all my M&M Club. But thanks, guys. We appreciate you, and I hope to see you again. I can't remember if I'm going to be able to make it next week or not. But we've got to take a break. On the other side, the Shot Father joins us. Todd Leary back with that and more right after this.
Indiana Sports Beat Radio is brought to you by the fine folks at the Hard Truth Distilling Company, including Big Woods Restaurants and Quaffon Beers. You can find their great products in your area. If not, ask for Hard Truth. Their great products like their Hard Road Rye, Sweet Mash Bourbon, or the Toasted Coconut Rum. Ask for the Hard Truth. In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering, serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas. Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off your first order. This segment is brought to you by the Rusty Gator in Bedford, where oceanic flavors meet southern charm. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Studios on this Friday. Appreciate you being with us. Joined now by the shot father, Todd Luria. How are you, sir?
I'm great. It's a beautiful morning. How are you doing?
Good. Glad to see you resting, not having to work as hard as normal.
Homebound? Yeah. Nice. Pretty fun.
Hey, if you're not working, it's always fun. Let me tell you, because I know that's not the case very often. A lot going on in IU athletics, brother. But we'll get to the basketball side of things first. A big recruiting weekend for the Hoosiers as Braylon Mullins, Trent Sisley, and Eric Reibe, the big 7-footer, come in for a visit. Braylon Mullins has canceled a couple visits, I think to North Carolina and to Duke maybe, but he has kept his visit scheduled to go to Lexington on October 27th, and I believe that's probably the weekend of their Midnight Madness thing. So I don't know why that's got Hoosier fans worried just a tick, but because you've got Malachi Moreno down there bending his ear now, where it was the opposite. Now people are like, oh my God, they're sucking him towards Lexington. That would be the worst. That would be the worst fear for Indiana fans, to see someone like Braylon Mullins go to Lexington. I don't see it happening, but I know that's a big fear.
Yeah, it would hurt our hearts, I think. Seeing him go to a Big Ten school would probably hurt our feelings more than anything. But we just you as an Indiana fan, I don't consider losing Malachi Moreno to Kentucky a loss, because that was everything just aligned perfectly for that. The proximity to his house is just too good for that. But when you look at, it's the opposite for Braylon Mullins and Sisley. I mean, those guys are right in Indiana's backyard. And so I've been saying it all along. I know you feel a little differently. You think we need to land 2 of those guys between him and Sisley, Mullins, and Harrelson, and if we get one of them, I'll be pleased. But I hope you're right. Trust me.
I'm greedy. I'm greedy.
Understood.
No, I'm kidding. No, I just think that it would be good for the eye test,
That'd be
especially.
fantastic. Oh,
but yeah, and that as well.
Unbelievable.
And someone said there's a rumor that Jalen Harrelson might visit again, but I mean, he was just here. He can come for an unofficial visit, but I don't know that he would either, though, because there's so much going on with those guys that I don't want to say you'd be in the way, but there's just a lot going on, and they're trying to vet these guys. They're trying to wine and dine them, so to speak. No wine involved, I'm sure. Lots of dining. Too bad. No. But bumps. Where? You know what?
Bottle
I have
service.
I have. If I could remember how to get to it, I have like a rim shot thing. Oh wait a minute, here it is. Can you hear this?
Show's going downhill.
Yeah, it is. Did you hear that?
I didn't hear anything. No.
Oh, too bad. It was a rim shot. Didn't work. But we've got the comedian. Yeah, but this is a huge weekend because it's the last hurrah. The decision making is coming sooner than people realize. The early signing period in November, and I think Braylon Mullins has said he's going into decision mode, and especially after he'll have that late visit to Kentucky. But I think I'm not sure that Trent Sisley is going to make his decision by then, but very possible. And the same with Eric Reibe, the big 7-foot center. They don't have to. With the portal, you don't have to land anybody, truth be told.
Right.
But Braylon Mullins is looked at as one of the great shooters in the country. Trent is one of the great all-around players as far as that wing spot. And of course, you've got a 7-footer in Reibe. He's a 7-footer. Enough said there. But it's time for, you've got to maintain a mix in the recruiting world. You still be able to pull in the guys that are important for optics, if nothing else, especially if they're very talented like this trio is.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's a little bit unusual this year because there's so many highly rated guys that are so close to the proximity of the campus. So that makes it a little different. A lot of times we don't have this many 4- and 5-star guys that are right here in our backyard. So that in itself is one of the, I think, pressures of this situation. But it's not just Indiana. I mean, honestly, I probably feel like Purdue feels a little bit of that heat as well. And Notre Dame, at some point in time, they've got to start locking down some statewide recruits also. And so, I mean, I think all of the state schools feel a little bit more pressure when you get this many local guys that are as highly rated as they are.
It's one thing I don't think Woody does. I don't think he's ever going to feel pressure. I don't know. I think he ignores it. And I don't mean that in a good or bad way. I'm just saying, I don't think he pays attention to it. I know he wants these guys.
I'll just say it this way. I think most people who say they don't pay attention to it
are lying
a little more than they act like. They pay attention to it a little bit more than they act like they do. Otherwise, they wouldn't get so offended when you said something. I mean, it is. I don't think Woody is. I don't think that they'll be in major panic mode if they don't land any of these guys. I think it would, like I said, hurt some feelings and the optics, as we've used that term a lot over the last couple of months, the optics would not be good if they don't land any of those guys. I don't think that's going to be the case. I mean, I would be super surprised if they didn't get at least one of them.
Well, yeah. Well, we can go back to the optics because that's where we were last year not last year, but not that long ago when Liam McNeely looked around and said, "Hey, I'm the only guy What's going on? So, and then he decommitted, but yet all of a sudden Indiana pulls in a boatload of talent, and that ship did a 180 out in the ocean very quickly. So things can change quickly. It's not all about recruiting the high school kids. And now worrying about things, I guess the thing to worry about is winning this year, because you've got the talent.
Right.
You've got everything that you've asked for, that you went and got, that you put together. He's the GM and the president. He's everything on this deal. So they've got to win this season.
And I think, excuse me, I think they put that pressure on themselves. I don't think that anyone's looking at this season, without a little bit of anxiety about the outcome, and the outcome should be good. And when I say that, we're probably more worried about it than they are. I think they get to see practices all the time. They get to see the talent level that's out there, and it's a high talent level. Like they've got all the pieces. It's just a matter of those pieces fitting together and playing well together. And so I don't think the coaching staff probably thinks there's as much heat as the rest of us think that there is on them, but that's truly just my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. Absolutely. Indiana is going to go into the season, I think, as the favorite to win the conference. And I don't mean that from any standpoint other than their roster. Their roster is going to be looked at as one that is loaded, because it is. You brought in all the different pieces, guards, wings, shooting. You brought in all these extra pieces, Ballo, and so you've got to fit them together, but you have them. I don't know of another team that has in name the talent that Indiana has right now.
Yeah, I mean, Indiana has a lot of potential. I'll put it that way. I think Indiana's potential is probably the highest. Just because Purdue lost Edey, I still think Edey or Purdue, they have the nucleus of everything back except for Edey. And so, I think they still probably have to be the favorite. They've won in a couple of years. They've got guys that are going to be on the floor that have 2 championship rings on their hand. And so I don't put the pressure of having to win the Big Ten. I think that's too steep, honestly. But I do think they have to compete for the Big Ten. They've got to be one of those top 2 or 3 teams. And if you're not that, then it's a probably unsuccessful season at that point. But so many different things can happen. We've dealt with injuries and all of that over the years, but these guys have to gel. That's we have heard a lot of people voice their opinions to us about different things, and one of those things is the schedule. And I have had to talk a lot of people, I feel like, down recently off of a weak schedule
off
that we
the
had
ledge
early in the season. Yeah, people don't like the schedule. Like they want to be playing Kentucky and Kansas and North Carolina every year. And I understand that. I try to explain. I think this is one of those teams that they need to gel together. And then as soon as I say that, everybody says, well, we almost lost to Army last year. I get it. I understand that. But that's what this early season is for. And for these guys to have the opportunity to be on the court playing against other bodies, trying to run an offense and get all that worked out, before they head down to the Battle for Atlantis down there. And then, those 2 early season, I saw the schedule came out yesterday for the Big Ten Conference. And so those 2 early season games that are in December, you need to win both of those, set yourself up at 2-0 to get started once January conference season starts. And so I don't mind the schedule. I know it's not going to be as fun, when you're watching Maui and watching all the good teams playing each other. That's always fun early in the season. But from Indiana's growing perspective, I think their schedule fits this team better.
Yeah, and I as far as the pressure, I'm the one. I guess I'll be one of those that puts it on them. I think that they are going to be the favorite, not just because I think that they should be. I just think that that's going to be I think that they're going to be voted the favorite. Purdue, the big talk has been Zach Edey and the generational player he's been for 2 years. So I don't think Purdue is going to be a favorite. I think they're going to be a top 4 or 5 team in the Big Ten, though, because they still have everybody else and guys that'll be playing in a different position. They're going to have to. I saw a great reference to this the other day, how Purdue is going to have to moneyball their way through replacing Zach Edey. And that is replacing him in the aggregate is the exact quote
right.
that Billy Bean used. But it makes sense, though, because you're not going to replace Jason Giambi with one guy. You're not going to replace Zach Edey with one guy because you don't have another Zach Edey. So they do have some 7-footers, but they've also got guys like Trey Kaufman-Wren who are going to play in different positions. Caleb First, they'll move them around, but Matt Painter is going to have to just finesse that somehow.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, I know we're an Indiana show, not here to talk about Purdue, but I mean, when you look at Purdue's makeup, though, I think one of the things that you would be crazy to overlook is the amount of experience and winning experience that they're going to have on the floor. And it was talked about 2 years ago when they got to the NCAA tournament and got bounced early about their backcourt was so young. And then last year they make it all the way to the final game. So they're not going to be talking about that anymore. These guys have won. And so now I just think it's going to be a different makeup for them, obviously, and a different team. But when you talk about, every time down the floor for the last 2 years when Zach Edey's been in the game, like their goal has been to have him touch the basketball. Well, I know that sounds easy, but it's when the other teams know that you're doing that, it's also not all that easy. And so they got a little different, things to look forward to this year. Guys are going to be able to play a little bit more like they're used to playing. I think we'll see a lot more shots from Fletcher Lawyer and Braden Smith and those guys. And I think, the guy on that roster, honestly, that scares me is Cam Heide. Like Cam Heide to me is one of those players that he was overshadowed last year because they already had success at guards and then Edey, obviously. And that's a guy that coming out in his second year, I think we're all going to be like, whoa, that guy is a lot better than what I thought he was. And so they've got a lot of talent. Like I know we talk about how much talent Indiana has, and Indiana's talent is proven a lot of it at other schools, and we've got to figure out how to get it together. And that's why I do still consider Purdue, the favorite of the Big Ten, because they've got guys that have already played together. They're working out kinks right now. They're not trying to figure out how the pieces are going to fit. And so, but then you're always going to have Illinois. They've got tons of NIL money. You're always going to deal with them. And then, I think some of the questions are going to be for the Big Ten when you look at it. Like, I think Nebraska overachieved in most people's minds last year. Maybe not Nebraska's minds, but the rest of the Big Ten. How are they going to be? Is Michigan State still going to be down a little bit? How's Michigan going to be with Dusty May? There's just so many questions that are out there about the Big Ten that it makes it fun to look forward to, really exciting to see how these teams play to start the year out. But yeah, when you're talking about this Indiana roster, I'm not going to disagree with you. I do think, especially probably from an NBA perspective, this Indiana roster has the most NBA potential talent on it. And man, if they can just figure out a way to play together, there's a lot of really good things to look forward to, I think.
I've got to tell you, we had IU Basketball Media Day this week, and so we got to talk to all of the players. They're a unique group. I think that this group is probably closer, even though they are all so many different faces.
Right.
They all have personality. Kenan Carlisle, Miles Bryce, personality. Carlisle, especially, that dude, he's kind of a character, man. But Ballo, he's the silent assassin. He's kind of quiet. He's kind of soft-spoken, but he's a big human. He is a large human, and it's going to be interesting to see him play. I don't think you're going to see Malik and him play some together, but I don't think you're going to see a lot of it, mainly because Ballo is a 20-minute-a-game guy. He's going to go in there, and he's going to wear people out for a while, and then he's going to come out. and then Malik Renew might go to the 5. They may bring in one of the others. I don't know, but it's going to be a lot of options. And they talked about playing a much faster paced game this year, especially with having these new guards and the ability to do that. Of course, that's something we've heard before, but I would think that it almost lends itself to it this year with having all this talent that can get up and down the floor.
Yeah, except for you've got Ballo, who's probably the slowest
not
player
going to get
in
up and down the
NCAA.
floor.
Yeah, and I'm not even really saying that negatively. I'm just pointing out I've watched a lot of Arizona games in the last couple of years, and I've watched how he plays, and he is not an up and down the floor kind of guy, and he plays 20 to 24 minutes. But the best part, I don't want that to sound like I'm disappointed that he's here. That's not the case, because I'll just tell you, I think one of the biggest positives that he brings, one of the biggest positives I think he brings is the ability to not have Malik guard big guys, because last year Malik got in foul trouble. I don't want to say every game, but it seemed like every game, and he had trouble staying on the court. And Ballo gives you another guy in there that can defend. You know, if the other team has a big guy that tends to have the ball a lot, Ballo gives you that other guy to defend him. If Malik had to guard him all the time, we're going to be dealing with a lot of foul issues again. And I hope one of the biggest strides that Malik has this season is being able to play, that 3-4 position. Coaches would probably laugh at me saying 3, but just out on the wing. 3 and 4 to me are kind of the same. They're just opposite sides of the court. And being able to play out on the wing a little bit, facing the basket, and give Ballo some room. But then also be able to back guys down like he did last year. And I think having Ballo is a benefit to Malik. And I think that we'll see his game be a little bit more well-rounded after this season or during this season, because Ballo is here. I think he would have been really pigeonholed to that 5 position if Ballo wasn't here. But I'll say this, I'm also kind of excited to see on the court, Ballo when he's not on there, to see Malik at the 5 and why am I spacing his name? Oh, Mbako at the 4. And primarily I say that because I want to see other 4s defend Mbako. And I want to see, what he's able to accomplish in that capacity. And so those are the things when you talk about putting, the roster together and who's going to be on the court. It's going to be really interesting because there's a lot of guys that have seen a lot of minutes. Trey Galloway is a guy towards the end of the season. Anthony Leal, a lot of minutes.
Gabe Cupps.
It's going to be hard to find. It's going to be hard to find those minutes, in my opinion, this year. I mean, barring injury, which we all hope doesn't happen. Yep, I think we're gonna see different lineups,
which is a good problem to have because that means you have depth. Luke Goody, gosh, he's a very well-spoken guy. He seems like a coach on the floor almost. He has a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, and you can tell that in talking to him.
Well, and I mean, if you're going to make a prediction for the season and what Indiana fans can look forward to, I'll just say this. By the end of the year, I'll be surprised if we're not saying Luke Goody is the best shooter on the team. And yes, I know Mbako is still there, but I think we'll be saying I think Mbako is going to have days where he goes nuts and might make, 8 threes. But I think consistently and percentage-wise, I think Luke Goody at the end of the year will probably be our best shooter.
Yeah, he's got a wealth of Big Ten experience already and brings over what he called a winning attitude, having played on teams that won, and they did win at Illinois, trust me, a lot.
Did they? What rings do they have? I'd like to see that.
Well, no, they didn't win championships, but they were fighting for the Big Ten title every year. They won a lot of games.
Yeah, I forgot. I forget other schools consider that winning. My bad.
I love it. Yes, exactly. That's how it should be. That's what I asked a couple of guys who talks the best shade, man. And they didn't come up with any quick answers, which was kind of funny. But no, I wanted to hear who's somebody talking smack, man. Then I wanted to know who was the worst at it, and somebody they just kind of had to guess it, like Gabe or something. I'm like, yeah, probably,
Gabe or Galloway,
yes, because they're too nice. They'll put one in your face, and I'm sorry about that. I just drained that 30-footer on you. Not Caitlin Clark. I've got news for you. Caitlin Clark will not be saying I apologize. We've got to take a break. Here on the way out, here's Woody. I asked him the other day about what's his biggest challenge been getting these guys to come together as a unit with all these new faces. When we come back, we'll talk to the Shot Fathers about some football, baby. I know you're a big fan. You had to love that UCLA game last weekend.
Yes, I did.
Fun stuff. We'll be back after this from Mike Woodson, back to the Hard Truth Studios.
I feel good about when I turn over there and putting somebody in the game that they're ready to come in and produce. And like I said, only time will tell.
Mike, you talked about all the things that you'd like to do this season with all the new faces that have come in. What has been the most seamless way of getting these guys together, but what has been the most challenging of getting to where you want to get with the new additions?
Well, it's not been a big challenge. I mean, we did a lot of things this summer from a bonding standpoint so these guys could kind of get to know and be around one another. And that's been probably the most we've done since we've been here. And that helps. But it starts in practice. It starts in conditioning, guys pushing one another and doing what's asked of them. And I have no complaints with this group. You know, I mean, they seem to like each other and they all pushing for the same thing, man, to win basketball games. And that's where it starts. And doing that, you know, I think we put ourselves in a nice position once the season starts to get off to a good season and see where it leads us.
Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio from the Hard Truth Studios right after this.
This segment is brought to you by the Rusty Gator in Bedford, where oceanic flavors meet southern charm. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouth-watering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Rebesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Hoosier Hanks East.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Hard Truth Distilling Company and Andy Moore Honda Bloomington. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Friday, coming to you from the Hard Truth Studios with the shot father, Todd Luria, joining us, and a big weekend of football as we enter week 4, Todd. And first of all, when you got up, it was kind of like when I loved watching Peyton and Eli on Monday nights, and when one of them get up, they've got the BRB sign that sits on their chair. And when you got up for a second, I saw the Believe sign from daggone it,
Ted Lasso.
Ted Lasso. That is
Ted Lasso.
That is funny. I mean, that thing is now. Is it ripped down the middle though?
It is not.
It's
framed.
It's framed. You need to rip it and then put it back in the frame. Remember, the one dude ripped it.
Yeah.
The coach
Nate ripped it.
Nate ripped it. That is cool though. I love that. Where did you pick that up? I'm sure
a good friend of mine gave.
No,
actually, no. Good friend of mine gave it to me. Good friend of mine, Chris and Jamie Walls gave it to me. So I was. We share the love of the show, and they knew I liked it, so they were nice enough to give me one.
I'm so brokenhearted that show is over.
Oh, well, fear not, because it's new season. They're getting ready to start filming.
What?
Yeah, new season.
With everybody back?
Well, I'm not sure everyone, but I'm pretty sure. But I mean, there's a lot of speculation as to what it's going to be about. But I think they're going to start a women's team. To be honest with you, I'm just my guess, total guess. I've read a lot of stuff about people's speculations about it, and I think that Rebecca and Kaylee are going to head up a women's team over there, and I think he's coming back over to coach it.
Kaylee. That's the only thing I can impersonate. I can impersonate how he's got a weird English accent, dude. But Kaylee, my feelings. But yeah, I love that show, man. And then you've got Danny. Bundle his life. Yeah. He's got his own commercials going now, yeah. That's so funny. Great stuff.
That show is the best. Like it's my favorite show
awesome
of all time, no question.
And I don't know that I've ever heard a character better named than Beard.
I agree.
Just simply named Beard. Speaking of
maybe Rip in Yellowstone.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He rips some heads off, rips some ass is what he does. But going from football to football, Indiana, of course, week 4 as they will host Charlotte, their final non-con game. They're a 28.5 point favorite. And I am not a huge bettor, but I will forever, and I mean forever until I die, regret not thinking ahead and putting down everything I own on Indiana against UCLA last week, because I knew that 2.5 point line was a joke. I'm like, Indiana's going to win this game by 3 touchdowns. UCLA was just not good, and you knew it. They were so out-coached. There was every box to check that there was almost no way Indiana could have lost, not much less lose the game, not cover the game. I think they could have covered that spread had they played backwards all day long. But to not bet that game, I will forever kick myself in the butt. I'm telling you, and I mean bet big.
Yeah, but Try to explain yourself to someone else saying that
Yeah.
you bet a lot of money on Indiana football, and then you can just justify it by saying over the years you have learned your lesson to absolutely not bet on Indiana football. Now, hopefully we're in a new era. It looks like we're in a new era. We're off to a great start in a new era. So, yeah, it sure looked that way. They looked like they outclassed UCLA from the get-go. I mean, early on, 14-0 in the first 6 minutes. So yeah, they were jumped on them early.
And I have to say this, and if there's nobody in this room that would know better than you, although you haven't probably spent much time, if any, around Curt Cignetti yet, but if you've been able to listen to him enough and listen to him talk and talk about the game and how he approaches everything, I hate making comparisons, especially this one. He reminds me so much of Bob Knight without the a-hole quality. Not that he can't be one if he wants to be, but he's not. He doesn't go in that direction very often. He's funny. He's got a hell of a sense of humor.
So like I will say this. I am not defending Coach Knight because I'm on the side of he turned into a nut job. He got a little crazy for himself. But if you compare year one, was early in his career to Cignetti, they're very similar. Coach Knight wasn't always that way. So if Cignetti stays at Indiana University for 30 years and wins at the level that Coach Knight did, I expect him to be an a-hole too. And he will have earned that right, and we'll all just overlook it just like we did for Coach Knight. And so, but I'll say this, you're not the only person that has made that comparison to me in the last 24 hours. And the other one is also on your show. His name's Don Fisher. He spends a lot of time with Coach Cignetti, and he made that comparison. And he made that comparison from a different perspective than I think the rest of us would, in that, in how he answers his questions and how he handles the media and how he handles his relationship with Fish and the players. And I think Fish sees it on even a different level than you do, and definitely a different level than I do. And Fish gets to see it up close on a daily basis. And he made the analogy of this guy is just different in a better way and in a good way. And so I trust some people's opinions. I super trust Fish's opinion. And
Absolutely.
When he says that kind of stuff about Coach Cignetti, I take it to heart. I believe it. I'm willing to repeat it easily.
Yeah, but it is the truth, and that's something I wouldn't make about anybody else. It's just so many things. It's not one thing. It is it's his preparation. It's his views on preparation.
You can stop right there. You can stop right there, because that was Coach Knight's biggest, absolute number one. I think that's what he was better at than every other human being I've ever seen. And that right there, Jim, I think you're right on the head. I have heard from day one, Scott Dolson has, pounded into everyone from day one. Coach Cignetti is the most organized coach that he's been around. And, from a preparation standpoint and making sure when you put players out on the field, they feel confident in the fact that they are prepared for the game and the game plan and all of that. That's a gigantic factor. I mean, I don't want to say that's why Tom Brady was successful. There's a bunch of reasons why Tom Brady was successful. But I think if you read a lot of stuff about him and hear Coach Belichick talk about him and all of that, it has mostly to do with his preparation and how he approached things. And I think Coach Cignetti is on a different level than what Indiana football fans have been accustomed to.
Well, I mean, there are so many. They're not Knightisms, but they're ones that he adopted and just put to use, like biblical portions: failing to prepare, preparing to fail, preparing to fail. I've heard that from you.
There's a million of them.
So many times. Yes. 4-1. 4 mental is the physical, is 4 is to 1. Yada. I can go on. All those I've learned from you, who in turn learned from Coach. I don't know what your schedule is after this. We've got a hard break we're coming up to, and Osterman is supposed to join us next. I'd love to have you back on after that to talk some football, because we didn't get to. Are you going to be around for a little bit? I'll reach back out and text you.
But I might be in the car.
That's okay.
But yes.
That's okay. I'll text you back. We'll get Zach in, but we didn't get to really talk football. I want to talk some college football as it's been fun. And I've got a shocker you want to talk about for Indiana. I think Indiana is going to shock people more than people think they're going to shock them.
Well,
we'll find out.
So
the Shot Father with us, brought to you by
Thank you.
Brought to you by the Ugly Grouper, but also myjumpshot.com. For those of you that are a kid, know a kid, have a kid that needs improve their jump shot, doesn't matter. We're talking 4, 5, 6, 16, 20. I don't care how old they are. Everybody needs to improve. Go to myjumpshot.com. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
Segment is brought to you by the Ugly Grouper.
In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of Wow Food Group.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl at indyhomepros.com. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. The Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Marie Island, Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Marie Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theUglyGrouper.com for more information.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by Hard Truth Distilling Company and Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington.
Hey, welcome back to the Hard Truth Studios on this Friday. Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Jim Coyle with you as always. Zach Osterman joining us as well from the Indy Star. Zach, how are you, sir?
Hey, sorry, I don't know what's wrong with my camera, but it's not been working for the last 2 days. So.
You know what? Don't worry. Most people would probably prefer mine didn't work. So you're all good, brother. A fun week for the media this week, as we had plenty to do, getting back from UCLA as Indiana secures their first Big Ten win.
their third win in the season. We had IU basketball media day this week, so a ton going on. And back into the football mode this weekend as Indiana looks to go 4-0. And more significantly, I could play a play on words there, huh, Zach? Significantly. More significantly, coach is about to step into some history, and in most places this probably would not be a big deal, but when Indiana wins on Saturday against Charlotte, and that's a foregone conclusion as a 28-point favorite, he's going to be the first Indiana football coach in the program's history. I can't remember, is it 125 or years, however long it's been, to win their first 4 games. And actually, he brought that up on his radio show last night with Don Fisher, asking Don if he knew that, hey, if we win Saturday, I'm going to be the first coach. And Don said, yeah, I knew that. I've been here for a while, which I found was hilarious. But the sheer fact that Signetti, he loves to play. He's got a sense of humor at the same time of being very businesslike. I mean, he is very able to balance these things. Like I haven't seen a lot of guys that can balance these things as well as he does.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I mean, I think there's just a lot of different ways that you recognize the value in modern college football of hiring a head coach who's been doing it for a while. And I think in different ways we've kind of begun to unpack this discussion of how the coaching business is changing because of the portal, because of NIL, because of how roster building has kind of evolved in the last few years. There have been, I've actually seen a couple different pieces out this week talking about, how hard it is for MAC coaches. I think Jason Candle at Toledo was the one that was sort of used as an example. And actually, interestingly, Candle was one of Indiana's. I mean, it's fair to say that Curt Signetti, my understanding at the time was he separated himself pretty early in the process, but Candle was one of the other coaches that Indiana vetted pretty heavily during its coaching surge. But just kind of this idea of you're seeing MAC head coaches leaving for Power 4 assistant coaching jobs because it's just so hard to sustain at that level until you can get a shot at the Power 4. And we've seen Kane Womack, who Indiana fans obviously know well, leave Indiana to be the head coach at South Alabama, have some success there, and then leave that job to be the defensive coordinator at Alabama. And I think that the feeling is that a little bit of head coaching experience, but then get back into the Power 4, because that's where all the hiring is coming from, because ADs and schools want people that know what a competitive Power 4 NIL setup looks like, how to handle the portal and recruiting at this level. And so, in that sense, maybe Signetti's hire is a little bit of an outlier, a little bit against the grain. But on the other hand, where I think it is very much kind of, I think it's getting harder and harder for like hot young assistants with no head coaching experience. And this is why I think Kane Womack's journey is kind of interesting. But schools, I think, more and more lean into guys like Curt Signetti because there is just, for better or for worse, it is probably fair to say there are periods of the year where you're doing less coaching and more management, more roster management, more, something akin to managing free agency or scouting and dealing with agents, dealing with players, all these different kinds of things. Like it's become a job that requires, it's a catch-22 because it's become a job that requires head coaching experience. But how do you get head coaching experience except to do the job? Well, in Curt Signetti, Indiana landed somebody that clearly is capable of kind of handling all of this of a piece pretty well together. And so far, it's gone well. Forgive me that rambled a little bit.
Oh, that's okay. It's been a perfect situation for Indiana. First, I guess I need to go back to last weekend in Pasadena, a Saturday night on national television in the Rose Bowl, the iconic venue, of course, a UCLA team that is not very good. Let's be honest, but that is just kind of been lost because it doesn't matter. It's that could have been the case for many IU teams in the past, and it would have been the struggle bus. But this Indiana team did exactly what they were supposed to do, and probably maybe a little more so. They definitely said, hey, for those of you that are not paying attention, that don't believe, this is for real, and they're going to keep rolling, and they did just that. Great crowd out there. Hopefully that they can get that kind of response at home, especially with the people sticking around. That was awesome to see. I've got to tell you, to see those thousands of people waiting for the team to come off the field, and Signetti. The one thing I wondered about that they're not doing, man, oh man, would that have been a perfect place for the team to kind of gather and salute the fans. That didn't happen, but I'm sure they were trying to get on the plane and get the hell out of there to get back home.
Yeah, no, I mean, that is a concern. And that's just a travel thing. You have to remember that the university will arrange charter flights, and you've got to get home in a certain amount of time because guys have got to be back comfortably in time to get back to class on Mondays, because there's a maximum amount of class time you're allowed to miss for athletic competition per NCAA rules annually. And that's just, especially a flight like that, where I'm guessing they had to go to LAX and they were going to fly to Indianapolis, and then they had to schedule a bus to be, or probably buses to be waiting for them in Indianapolis to drive them down to Bloomington. The point is, there's just a lot of moving parts in a trip like that mean everybody's got to stay on a certain schedule. It's not like, say, if they did the same thing at Purdue and all they got to do is, come salute the fans, celebrate with the bucket, grab some food, get on the bus and drive home. But as to the performance, I mean, it was, frankly, a lot of what we've seen from Indiana the previous 2 weeks. And you're right, UCLA, I think, is a flawed team. I think, UCLA is kind of at the other extreme. They've got an awful schedule and a first-year head coach who looks like he's still trying to figure out how to manage everything. They also, it should be said, had their coaching change occur outside the normal portal windows. So, there wasn't necessarily that opportunity to go be really bullish and aggressive in the portal and try and add some pieces. But if you're Indiana, all you can do is beat what's in front of you. And I think what's impressive for this team so far is just how clean and efficient and fundamentally sound, so much of this has been. I mean, you can measure that a lot of different ways. They have yet to commit a turnover. I think they're one of, in the Big Ten, they are one of two teams. Ohio State is the other one that have not committed a turnover. They haven't allowed a sack in more than 2 games. They lead the conference in sacks. Their sacks allowed number is one of the best in the conference. I mean, it's weird because Northwestern, Nebraska have each only allowed 1. They run the ball a fair bit more. Rutgers has only played 2 games, but they haven't allowed a sack. The point is, Indiana is obviously very good in that area. Indiana leads the Big Ten in third down conversion rate. Indiana leads the Big Ten in red zone attempts, scores, and touchdowns, all 3. On Saturday, obviously, Indiana was great on third downs. They didn't turn the ball over. They did turn UCLA over. Curtis Rourke was outstanding. He was efficient. He was explosive. But to me, what really jumps out to me is just Indiana is very, other than the penalties, that's kind of the one piece that I think Curt Cignetti probably still wants cleaned up. That Indiana is very fundamentally sound, handles its business with kind of I don't want to say a minimum of fuss, but it moves very efficiently through all the things it has to accomplish. And through these first 3 games, it's kind of been posed, maybe some lesser challenges, but man, I mean, it's also looked awfully impressive in pushing these teams aside. So.
Absolutely. And they have, the penalties didn't hurt them last week. That is an amazing thing. That's another thing. When there was a drive, I remember when they had multiple offensive penalties where a lot of times that will kill a team's drive, and it happens many, many times. Indiana was able to fight through that because of their unbelievable conversion rate on third down. And there were some penalties that were what I just call football plays, and there were some iffy calls. Definitely, he wants to get the self-inflicted wounds fixed up. Now, CJ West, he announced last night on his radio show, will be playing this week, which he would have been in the second half, but he's going to be fully available because the Big Ten overturned the targeting call, which I have never heard that happening, Zach.
I have, and for the record, I don't think it is. I don't think it's the Big Ten. I believe it is. I believe the Big Ten elevates that to the NCAA level. I'm not positive about that, but I think that is the case. Because remember, all these decisions, and I think this is important for fans to remember, for the first time, all these replay decisions, everything that goes to replay, whether it's penalties, turnovers, whatever, all that goes through a centralized replay center I think it's in Rosemont, in suburban Chicago, where the Big Ten's based. So I think, if the Big Ten were to overturn its targeting decision, it would be overturning its own decision, if you sort of understand what I'm saying. I think because that is a national rule, I think the way that it works is it gets elevated to the NCAA level. I mean, I might be wrong about this, but I don't think I am. Either way, that's kind of semantics. I think it's somewhat important because if you're Indiana, I think there is an extent to which you look at some of those penalties. Listen, you take away all of the controversial penalties on Saturday, Indiana still had too many penalties, and I think Kurt Signetti would say that. But if you're Indiana, I think you want to look at some of those, like the roughing the passer call that I still don't understand.
Yeah.
Obviously, the CJ West targeting. I think the one that Indiana really wants an explanation on is the targeting call that was waved off on the UCLA wide receiver, whose name escapes me, when Aiden Fisher intercepted that pass.
Yeah.
The point is, if you're Indiana, I don't think it's completely irrelevant kind of who's making this decision and what the decision is, because I think you are within your right to seek a better understanding of why this happened and why this was the decision and so forth. But having said that, in the here and now, the thing that Indiana will be most concerned with is CJ West is available on Saturday. Obviously, I mean, he would have been available for the second half anyway, and it's Charlotte, so we can imagine that's probably not a big deal. But nevertheless, you'd rather have the player than not have the player. And, Indiana, CJ West still might not play much. Again, it's Charlotte. Indiana might not need, some of its more experienced players for too long. And this is maybe the last chance you're guaranteed if you're Curt Signetti. Obviously, you've got to do your work early. And I think it's fair to say Signetti's a little concerned with Charlotte based on some of his comments this week. I think he sees the way that Charlotte has sort of punched up against better competition in the last couple of years. I think it probably helped him get his team's attention that Charlotte was still in a game in the third quarter at North Carolina last weekend. But let's live in a world where Indiana can, build a comfortable lead by maybe the midpoint of the third quarter. This is the last time this season you're going to be guaranteed, if you're Curt Signetti and his staff, to be able to get, quality reps for backups. And I wouldn't be shocked if there's a real intent to do that if Indiana can get to a place where this game is kind of comfortably beyond Charlotte's reach, because the more time on task you can give those players, even in a low pressure situation, even if the game's out of reach, the more it's probably going to help you down the line when, somebody gets hurt somewhere or whatever, and you got to turn around and ask, the example I always use is Taven Jackson, just because quarterback is such a highly magnified position. But you got to turn around and ask Taven Jackson to go to the wall for you real fast here. If you are, what am I trying to say here? If you are Indiana, there's quality even in a controlled setting, getting those guys just a few more meaningful reps in a live game situation. And so talking about CJ West, talking about some guys that, weren't suspended to begin with, I wouldn't be shocked if Indiana tries to pull some players out of the fire if you can in the second half, but you want to have them available to start with. And that's, I think, the most important piece for Indiana.
Absolutely. And getting back to the replay for the Big Ten centralized there, up in Chicago, which it blows me away. If you've got to go to that, you've got replay. I cannot. There is no explanation that's plausible to me on the call that got waved off against Aiden. That Aiden Fisher got targeted when he was hit, rather. It was just clear, and there's no diluting of that. There's nothing that can make me understand.
The broadcast explained it as there's like a circumference on the top of the helmet that now, if you don't make contact with that, then there have to be other indicators, I think is what they were saying, that, it has to escalate in some other way. My argument for that, and, listen, I thought the D'Angelo Pons targeting was targeting. I thought it was the kind of targeting where you look at it and you say, I don't really know what D'Angelo Pons is supposed to do. But listen, sometimes penalty, not every penalty is nefarious. Not every penalty is intentional. Sometimes you just commit a penalty because you're in the wrong place at the wrong time and the other team wrong foots you. But the point is, what that rule is designed to stop is it's hits to the head. And so even if D'Angelo Pons says, I'm not going to lead with my helmet, I'm going to try and do the right thing, I'm going to try and lead with my shoulder to jar the ball loose, he goes into the helmet of the UCLA receiver. That's targeting. My issue with the Aiden Fisher one is, why are we making the D'Angelo Pons targeting happens because we asked players not to hit with their helmet. Why are we suddenly making this distinction that hitting, going into a quote unquote defenseless or offensive player's helmet to deliver the hit is what this is supposed to stop? Targeting is supposed to be a deterrent. People always say, why can't targeting have levels to it? The reason they got rid of the 5-yard face mask penalty primarily in college and the NFL was that studies told them that referees, admirably wanting to not insert themselves too much into the flow of games, were erring on the side of the 5-yard face mask because they didn't want to call the more severe penalty and risk potentially affecting the outcome of the game more directly. So they went to the 5-yard face mask. The problem is, face mask isn't like holding. It's not pass interference. It's not a rule designed to be broken for competitive reasons. It is a rule designed to legislate out something dangerous in the game.
Right.
And that's the same thing with targeting. And if you start making levels for targeting, I think there's a fear that referees will say, we don't want to be the ones that throw an important player out of a game. We don't want to throw Micah McFadden out of the IU Cincinnati game. It could completely change the flow of the game. And I understand why people say, okay, but isn't 15 yards enough, or 20 yards or something like that? I mean, we can kind of debate that till the end of time. The point is, these rules are supposed to just legislate out of football as much as possible dangerous hits. And if the D'Angelo Pons hit is dangerous, which it is by letter of the rule, then it does not seem to square with me at all that somehow the helmet-to-helmet contact, in the nature that it wasn't like they banged face masks.
Right.
The helmet went into the helmet. The idea that there's a part of the helmet that is less dangerous to delivering that kind of blow to another player's head, like it just feels like we're trying too hard to wrap ourselves around some solution that's acceptable to everyone with targeting, when really I think we just need to say, if we're going to have it as a rule, then we just need to, the whole point of this is we need to legislate this kind of hit, this kind of football play out of the game as much as humanly possible. And you know, frankly, there's an extent to which all the people arguing for levels of targeting and why can't we have this or that? Well, maybe part of the reason why we can't have it is because you have a hit like that with Aiden Fisher, and for all the world, that's targeting. But because we have tried to find ways to accommodate, you know, the defender more, we have created a situation where somehow what D'Angelo Pons does, where he intentionally keeps his helmet out of the play, is targeting, which I think it is. But what happens to Aiden Fisher, and forgive me, I just can't remember the UCLA receiver's name, but what happens to Aiden Fisher isn't targeting. And that is a hard circle to square if you're Indiana. And I understand why Curt Cignetti was frustrated with it, even still on Monday. And B, it is kind of an example of why it is really hard to do what fans want and create levels to targeting, because then what happens is you start getting situations where you look at what happened to Aiden Fisher, and I don't care where on the helmet contacted the helmet. That is exactly the sort of hit for which we have that rule. And the idea that the Pons one was targeting, or the CJ West one could even be examined as a potential targeting, but what happens to Aiden Fisher can somehow be ruled out, that the rule just can't work that way. It just can't work that way and be effective. And that's kind of my soapbox. Forgive me. I understand everybody's like position on targeting. I do. And there are times where I look at it like the D'Angelo Pons one, where I say, well, I'm not really sure what else he could have done. But in the same breath, I just, if we're going to do this, we've got to commit to it wholeheartedly, because we've got to say certain hits just need to be taken out of football. And if the D'Angelo Pons one's targeting, if you even think there's a chance the CJ West one's targeting, there's just no world where the Aiden Fisher one isn't.
Exactly. I mean, a lot of times what will happen is an offensive player, the defender will have already launched, and it will not be at the head of the offensive player, but their body continues to move. Then all of a sudden, when they converge, sometimes that's very inadvertent. The thing I hate worse about the targeting penalty is the punishment. Kicking somebody out for what most 99% of the time is an inadvertent type of hit is just way too severe of booting them from a game. I think that this should be a 15-yard penalty. Maybe they sit a play, and if they get a second one, then you get booted. But to toss someone out of a game where you could I've said this earlier, you could take a 20-yard head start and lay somebody out on purpose trying to hurt them and get an unsportsmanlike flag. So it's that, and the fact that when there are clear calls like the Aiden Fisher when he got hit, I don't get it, and I don't understand how they can make that distinction. And then on the roughing the passer, the quarterback, he didn't throw the ball. So they're assuming he was a passer. Maybe that was the play, was to just draw people. He didn't throw the ball, so he was never a passer. I don't know how they call roughing the passer when he didn't throw it, but that's neither here nor there. Indiana, 28.5-point favorite this week. Curt Cignetti did talk on his radio show, try to tell people, hey, man, don't think we're just going to roll over Charlotte. Charlotte's going to come in and play. This is probably the only situation for a trap game for Indiana this year, although I don't see that being an issue, but it could make the game closer than people might think after what they've done so far.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, I think Curt Cignetti's concern is that, one, he's got a team that spent the week, getting praised, and coaches are never comfortable with that, like ever, because it means that they're fighting. What was the phrase that Cignetti used in the build up to the Western Illinois game? It means they're fighting human nature. there is the added element of a team in Charlotte that's had some injury concerns, which is a concern for Charlotte, but that, I mean, I think they've changed quarterbacks already a couple times here. So now there's like kind of a bit of maybe a bit of concern about, uncertainty behind center and how do you prepare? I mean, Signetti said on Monday, it's not going to change our game plan much. A coach will always say that, obviously. Just in general, it is a team that clearly he thinks has a chance to kind of play up to its competition in a way that gets a little bit dangerous for Indiana. And I think the other piece of it too is, it's when we talked about Indiana, the first two games, the FIU game, it was, hey, listen, this is everybody's first game of the season. There's jitters, there's excitement. It's a new coach. It's all the attendant stuff. Then with Western Illinois, I'm not trying to be cruel, but like, let's just be fair. It was clear where that was going pretty much from day one, or from minute one. And then you have the UCLA game. This game is just a little bit oddly timed, purely in the sense that Indiana could do with basically winning this game with a minimum of fuss. Like there was more value, I think, in the performance against Western Illinois or FIU or even UCLA. This is much more about get through to Maryland unscathed and really get to a place where you are hitting the actual bulk of conference play, like the part of conference play that won't stop, in your best possible form. But then what happens with that is you're constantly balancing with yourself, with your team, you're planning, whatever. You're constantly balancing sort of this, like, well, we want to be ahead. How ahead is far enough? How do we back off? When do we back off? Who do we back off with? What if, what happens if we back off too early and the guys get complacent? Because, Signetti clearly had some concerns about that with the Florida International game. He said they got up 21-0 and they got complacent with the lead, and that can't happen. Obviously, we saw what they did against Western Illinois and UCLA that suggests that, they have maybe Indiana's learned from some of that. But the point is, games like this are just a little bit tricky. Like that, I don't think it's unreasonable to say they are just a little bit difficult. Now, the flip side here is Indiana's 40th in the S&P Plus this week, according Bill Connolly's formulas. Charlotte is 125th. Charlotte's only win was against Gardner-Webb, which is an FCS team. Gardner-Webb, I think, was, and I'll look this up while we're talking, a little bit of on-air admin. The Gardner-Webb led that game, I believe, 26-6. And Charlotte had to, they were certainly at very least up 20-6 at the end of the third quarter. And then I'm not sure exactly. Charlotte had to score 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter to come back and win that game. Then they turned around and they gave UNC a game. Yes, but they also lost by 23 to James Madison at home to open their season. The point is, it is not a game that ultimately Indiana should need even its best football to win. Charlotte is 120th in the S&P Plus offensive rankings, 118th in the defense. This is just a game that Indiana, frankly, should be able to win, even through some mistakes, even if some guys have to sit out. Obviously, Pons is not going to play the first half at least. If Indiana's up 35-0 at the half, I would be a little bit surprised if D'Angelo Pons plays at all. But I understand Signetti's concern, because Charlotte has been a little bit difficult. The UNC game is the one that I think he cited most recently. You want to scroll back to last season. They gave Memphis a game. That was a good Memphis team. They beat Tulsa, our old friend Kevin Wilson. They held Florida to 22 points in a 22-7 loss. They only lost 38-20 to Maryland in a game that, again, I think they were leading that game 14-9 at halftime. Maryland had to score 29 points in the second half to win it. Signetti's clearly concerned with Charlotte, and I think he's also concerned with kind of the intersection of Charlotte and where his own team is at, having a really successful first 3 weeks and suddenly having to learn how to handle some success for some of these guys for the first time in a while, for some of them maybe for the first time in their college careers. And so that is what to me makes this game tricky. But having said all that, Indiana should win. Maybe they will win imperfectly. I think when I put together my preseason predictions, I picked Indiana to win this game, and I think I had them winning something like 35-10, something kind of pedestrian. And my argument was basically that I thought Curt Cignetti would get the game to a place where he was comfortable, Indiana wouldn't lose it, and then he would just kind of shut things down so that Indiana was as fresh for Maryland as humanly possible. And I still think that's kind of how this may go. But
hey, guys, we need to get a break.
All right. We appreciate you, Zach. I don't want to keep you too long. I appreciate you greatly. And
no, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, buddy. And we'll look forward to seeing you out there this weekend as Indiana takes on Charlotte. We've got more coming up from the Hard Truth Studios. Right. Hey,
bring me some of that Hard Truth.
Segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville.
See you, Jim.
Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off of your first order.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouth-watering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com. In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
Segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg.
Welcome back. It is Friday here at the Hard Truth Studios. And I definitely need to get some samples in, man, to hand out to some of my guests, because it's the goods. Big weekend of college football up starting tonight. A big Big Ten game, an important Big Ten game, as Nebraska will host Illinois. Number 22 Nebraska and number 24 Illinois going at it in Lincoln for the Cornhuskers' 400th consecutive sellout. That goes back to 1962. I was not even born when that started. That's wild. The Jets, big night last night. Aaron Rodgers back at it. Shohei Ohtani steps into history. How long before we consider him the best player of all time in Major League Baseball? I know that you've got to put the years in, but he's just doing crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. He just did something no one else has ever done. He is a power hitter. He's a good hitter. He's a pitcher. He's 50 stolen bases. It's crazy. Tonight, I think that Nebraska, they're going to win at home. I just don't see Nebraska losing at home with how they're playing right now. They're a true freshman quarterback. Their defense looking strong, I might add. What was that? I'm trying to think of what the spread on that game was. It wasn't a whole lot, as I am working to get those pulled up right now. But yeah, this is the first big game. Well, no, it's not the first big game of the Big Ten, but it's one that will have a bearing on Indiana's schedule, because Nebraska, I expect them to be undefeated when they arrive in Bloomington on October 19th. I expect Indiana to be undefeated when Nebraska arrives on October the 19th. 2 6-0 teams in Bloomington in a few weeks. That should sell out Memorial Stadium. And it's not my job to cheerlead, not my job to be the guy that brings fans in for Indiana. But I will say this. For all the people that have whined and moaned, and you know what? Well, I have to wait and I got to see it to believe it. Well, I've heard this before. Jump on the train or not, brother. It's real. I don't know. If you don't get it, then you don't understand sports. But being around it and being closer, I will tell you, it's a lot easier when you're actively talking to the coaches. You get a great sense that is different. Earlier when I was comparing Cignetti to Bob Knight in many ways, that was a compliment, because I'm thinking of all the very, very extreme good things, the talent, the ability to recognize talent, the ability to. Bob Knight did not recruit what you would call nonstop 5 stars, although he had a crap ton of talent on his teams. Let's don't kid anybody. But he also had role players, guys that were supposed to do what they were supposed to do so other guys could do what they were supposed to do. And that's kind of how things are rolling with Indiana football. And it is only going to get better, because the talent will get better. They will start getting higher level talent. And that's when things become even better yet. But For all the craziness that has been talked about IU football, included some for me this year, but that's because, if you listen to the show, I say what I feel, and if it's good, I'll say it's good. If it sucks, I'm going to say it sucks. But Indiana is in position. I've talked about from the very beginning of the season, I talked about the path to 6-0. And they're rolling on that train now. Maryland will be the only team that stands in the way of that potentially, but that's going to be a game at home. I do not see Indiana getting upset by a Maryland team at home, but that's a game away, so I don't want to break the coaching cardinal rule and jump ahead. But Indiana's going 6-0, people. I've been telling you since before the season started, mark it down, 6-0. Now, can they get past Nebraska? Can Nebraska get past Indiana? That's going to be a fist fight of a game. It's going to be like the movie Gangs of New York when they challenge accepted. Bricks, bats, they start laying out what they can bring to battle. They're going to bring it all. Steel pipes, 2x4s with nails in them. That's going to be just a back alley brawl of a game, I think. But if Indiana can get past Nebraska at home and go to 7-0, that does multiple things. Number one, that will give them even more confidence than they have right now. With another home game coming behind them against the Washington team that is probably an average team right now. They are coming off of a loss to former Pac-12 mate and arch rival Washington State. So the potential for 8-0, there's a path to 8-0 now, people. Which, yeah, it sounds crazy. I get it. But it's reality. Indiana, and again, remember that where you hear this stuff. In my opinion, Indiana will be favored in 8 of their final 9 games. The only game they will not be favored in will be at Ohio State. Obviously, they're favored by 28 this weekend. They're going to be favored at home against Maryland next week. They'll be favored on the road at Northwestern. They'll be favored over Nebraska, whether it's by 3 or whatever, but they're going to be favored. Even if they lost that game to Nebraska, they'll still be favored over Washington the following week. Now, if they lose the Nebraska game and they go to Michigan State, that might change depending upon what Michigan State is doing at the time. But you've got a Michigan team coming in after that. I think Indiana, as of right now, unless, barring a major injury, Indiana will be favored in 8 of their 9 following games. Final games. Okay. All of those games are winnable. Never, ever, ever, ever have I been able to say that in the 8 years that we've done this show in regards to Indiana football. I'm not jinxing it. There's no such thing as the jinx. Brian, there are no jinxes. You make your own luck. I don't think that the football gods are paying attention to what Jim Coyle is saying. A few enough people do. I doubt the football gods do. But anyway, my point being, favored out of 8 or 9 games. Let's say they win those 8 of 9 games. Do you know what the possibility is? Thank you, Russell. I appreciate you. Do you know what the possibility is here, people, what we're talking about?
that it is feasible. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it is very feasible. What crow? See, here's what crow am I? There's no crow to eat. I'm laying out some facts here. Please point out what is not factual that I'm. If Indiana does, there's no. What game is Indiana not going to be favored in besides Ohio State? Crickets. Where are my crickets? I used to have some crickets. Oh man, I don't think you could hear that, unfortunately. But anyway, getting back to my topic. They've already won 3. They're going to win this weekend. They'll be 4-0. That leaves 8. Or no, that leaves leaves 8 games. So they'll be favored in 7 of the remaining 8, I guess I should say. But if you take those first 4 and you add that 7 to it, what's that come out to? 7 come 11. Can you imagine? And this is feasible. An 11-1 Indiana football team. Yeah, I know you can put that right up there with all the crazy talk in the world. I get it. But something I've said all year long as well, I don't care what happened last year. I don't care what happened the year before that. I don't care what happened last decade. It's not relevant. It's not relevant to this team. It's not relevant to this coaching staff. They don't give a crap about that. They weren't here. They had nothing to do with it, and they don't give a crap. Now, there are a few players that were here, but overall, they don't care. They're not thinking about, well, what did Indiana do last year? No, because they've already won as many games in 12 games last year that as Indiana has won this year in 3. So if they get to 11-1, that's not a guarantee to make the Big Ten championship, because I think there are going to be up to 4 11-1 teams in the Big Ten. Well, there could be a 12-0 team with Ohio State, but Oregon's going to go 11-1 unless they get upset somewhere along the way. They have a nice schedule laid out for them. USC could go 11-1, but they have got a game at the end of the year with Notre Dame. They've got a big game this weekend at Michigan, but I just don't think that's going to be a problem for USC. I think they go to the big house and take care of biz. We've got to take another quick break. We'll come back and finish out with our college pickups for this week. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from the Hard Truth Studios. Make sure you go over to Hard Truth Distilling in Nashville and enjoy a day. Go over and watch the games, enjoy lunch, and peruse, take a tour of the facility. It's incredible. Back with more right after this.
This segment is brought to you by the Fresh Fork in Bloomington.
In the market for a new or used vehicle? In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off your first order.
This segment is brought to you by Freethink Apparel.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you from the Hard Truth Studios. So make sure you're getting over to Nashville and visiting Hard Truth Distilling Company and pick up some of that sour mash bourbon, some of their great rye, toasted coconut rum, cinnamon vodka. They have an amazing array of products, and I'm going to have to get some samples for my peeps. Looking forward to it this weekend. A bunch of good games. There are some games. First of all, let's go to the college pick'ems for the Indiana Sports Beat fantasy ESPN college pick'em deal. The Wolfpack travel to Clemson. North Carolina State 17.5-point underdog there. I'm not telling you who I picked because I'm not going to let you copy off of me. I went 8-2 last week, baby. I'm going to come back just 1 week at a time after getting screwed up on the first week with my picks not counting. JMU getting 9.5 points at North Carolina. A year ago, that would not have been the case. I feel pretty certain. Louisville hosting Georgia Tech, and they give up 9.5 points. That's a good ACC game. Which, if there is a good ACC game, Northern Illinois hosting Buffalo, 13.5-point favorite there. LSU, oh boy, UCLA, poor UCLA. After getting manhandled at home by Indiana last week in their Big Ten opener, they finished non-conference play in Death Valley, and not Death Valley, California. In Baton Rouge, as they'll take on the Bengal Tigers. They're only a 23.5-point underdog. And I'm thinking, man, they should just destroy them. Miami, the Hurricanes, the only good team in the ACC, travels to South Florida, 17.5-point favorite. Tennessee might be one of the best teams in the country. They are giving up 7.5 as they travel to Boomer Sooner land. Ole Miss Rebels. Well, my daughter will be hanging out down there in the Grove tomorrow as they welcome in Georgia Southern.
Texas, the number one team in the country. Boy, they're really stretching themselves this week as they'll take on University of Louisiana Monroe. 45.5-point favorite. Kansas State on the road at BYU as a 7.5-point favorite there. So get your picks in and keep up with it. Now, other big games, I mentioned Illinois, Nebraska. That's tonight, peeps. 8 o'clock on Fox, Nebraska. 7.5-point favorite. Personally, I'm going with Nebraska on that. I think that's how that is going to go. Man, I'm trying to pull up just the Big Ten games, but another big game in the Big Ten, though. USC, number 11 USC, going to how the hell is Michigan still ranked? See, that's what's a joke. Michigan is not a top 25 team. But because they're the defending champion, because it says Michigan on their jersey, they're still getting that. Man, it's been a great day today. I can't thank everybody enough. Big thanks to Todd Luria, to Zach Osterman. Most importantly, to each and every one of you. We'll be back tomorrow. Don't forget the post-game show with Coach Shannon. We'll see if we can get some others to join as well. But looking forward to another one. Go out and have yourselves a great day. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.